Good morning, everyone, and welcome one more day to your computer security channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about cheats, Cheetos, hackers, or whatever you want to call them in the world of video games. So if you want to know how a cheat works, how they are programmed, or why it is easier for some games than for others, this is your video. Let's start with the simplest thing. We have to clarify when something is considered cheat and when not. I would categorize the unexpected things in a game in three groups: the glitches, the Easter eggs, and the cheats themselves. Glitches are those behaviors that are unexpected within a game, but that are usually discovered by accident or by mistake. It is typical that we are playing a game and after a combination of buttons or entering and exiting a screen or something a little strange, we see that the game behaves strangely. Normally, these errors are usually superficial and do not affect the gameplay very much. Older players will remember that in the first versions of Pokémon Red and Blue, there was the Pokémon Missigno. This Pokémon actually didn't exist. It was rather a bug in the data buffer of the game itself. To simplify it a lot, I'll explain that each Pokémon in the game had a number assigned to it, but due to a bug in the data buffer, it didn't find the Pokémon to which it referred. Therefore, it said missing number, that is to say number not found, and hence the name Missigno. In fact, this Pokémon could be captured and used as if it were another Pokémon. But as I said, it didn't affect the game to a great extent because it was a Pokémon without any special statistics. And that's why this kind of glitches are not considered cheats. On the other hand, we have the Easter eggs, which are nothing more than tricks or pranks that the Pokémon have to play. Let's say that it is something similar to the glitches, but it is something controlled and decided by the programmers of the game, and these Easter eggs exist mostly for two reasons: or to make the grace and to leave it as a joke, or directly because they have forgotten to remove these tricks from the code. I imagine that you already know that there is something called tester, that are the people who are in charge during the development of the video game to test it to prove that everything works correctly. Well, now imagine that this tester has to test all the weapons in the game. He is not going to go through the whole game to test everything. The most common thing is that the programmers prepare a combination of keys or a code or something so that the tester can get access to all weapons, without having to play through the whole game. As you can imagine, this makes life much easier for those who have to test it. But of course, then you have to remember to remove these hatches, because if not, little time will take people to find and take advantage of these errors. And finally, we have the cheats. And this is where the real kicker is. Here is the most interesting thing and why we are making this video. I would consider cheat any way of modifying the behavior of the game. To give you some advantage, either by modifying the game code itself or by using external software. The truth is that cheats within the world of computing, and specifically cybersecurity, is something that is quite interesting. So now that we know what a cheat is, let's see how they are made. To understand how cheats work, we first need to be clear about the concept of injection. It is a concept that is not only used in the world of video games, it is also used for hacking Wi-Fi networks or for hacking web pages. In fact, we already talked about this in other videos, so I'll leave it up here or in the description of this video. In a very summarized way, I will tell you that injecting is nothing more than the introduction of an external code inside an application or any software to make it behave in an unexpected way. In the case of the video games, what is done is to inject lines of code or values directly, so that when the game processes them, it gives us some kind of advantage. What you must learn to understand the concept is that video games usually store information in specific portions of your RAM memory. Let's say there is a drawer inside your computer in which the video game saves by percentage of life you have, how many lives you have left, or what map you are playing on. Every time your character takes some damage, it has to lower your life. So the game accesses that portion of memory and replaces the number that was there. If it was originally 100% life, it will lower it to 90, 80, 70, and so on. Obviously, when that number reaches 0, the game will understand that you have died and will show you the window that you have died, or the game will end. Now imagine that we managed to find the drawer inside our computer, where this number is stored, and we get to make a software that is in charge of every microsecond. Update that value to 100. So basically what it would do is that the game would understand that your life is always at 100, and you would make a cheat to be immortal. As you can imagine, in your computer, not only the life you have left is stored, the life you have left. It also stores, for example, the coordinates of your character with respect to the map. So that if we modify these values in which the coordinates are stored, we could get to make, for example, our character or move faster, jump higher, or teleport. In fact, if we modify the y-axis of our character, we could make our character fly in a game in which in principle it would be impossible to fly. Modifying these values is how usually cheats are made that serve either to fly, or to teleport, or to move much faster. Now that you have understood the subject of injection and so on, you may ask yourself, Borja, but now, how do I know where I have to change these values inside the game? Where I have to change these values in my RAM? Well, in principle, there are several ways to get to modify these values within a video game. There are programs such as Telerik or Reflector that are in charge of compiling the game. In this way, you could get to see which lines of code are causing this game and which DLLs are being used. Once this is passed, it is much easier to modify these DLLs or to see which resources of your computer are being consumed to be able to modify them. On the other hand, there is also Cheat Engine. It is a program that you may know it because the YouTuber Inchu uses it in his series Hackeando Videojuegos. Using this program, you can get to see what is inside the RAM memory, knowing what the game is saving and what it is reading. Well, if with the program itself, we can modify these values. We can get to access places that in principle cannot be accessed. We can fly or directly be immortal, for example. The other day, looking for information on the internet and documenting myself to make this video, I found the talk of a hacker that I highly recommend. Of course, I leave it in the description as well. This hacker told that through JavaScript, he could modify the information that was inside the RAM memory. To do this, he used a library called Robot.js that I have been taking a look, and it is quite interesting. Because Robot.js allows you to access the computer's own memory using simple JavaScript. Using simple JavaScript. I mention it because it's something quite interesting, so if you have some time to watch the talk, I recommend you to go down to the description and take a look at it. On the other hand, we also have another type of cheats that not 100% use injection or more or less. These cheats use a DDoS attack to the server of the video game you are playing. If you do not know what is the DDoS here above, I leave you a video in which I explain it to you quite well. This cheat is simply a software that is opened apart from the video game, in which you indicate the IP of the server in which you are playing. The truth is that normally there are many games that somewhere usually show you the IP of the server you are on, in case you want to invite a friend to play or whatever. So basically this software, what it does is in the face of saturating of packages, the server of that game arriving to the game to slow down and to be practically impossible to play. But if what it does is to make it impossible to play, what is the cheat for? It doesn't give you any advantage. And it is true that this cheat does not give you any advantage by itself. But if you are in a game in which you are losing and you don't want your stats to go down, you only have to plug this program, start doing a DDoS attack, and the game itself will crash. It will break. In this way, the game would give the game as invalid for server issues, and you would not lose points. In fact, there are games in which, if the game crashes for whatever reason, it gives points to everyone. So it is a way to get to have a lot of points without playing any complete game. Well, now that we are more or less clear about how cheats work, what would you say? What would you say? Can all games be hacked? Can't they be hacked? How do the anti-cheat systems work? How do they work? Are they valid? Are they not valid? I see there are a lot of questions, so let's go with this topic. How do anti-cheats work? You could say that anti-cheats work by doing checks of the game on the server. In fact, in case you didn't know, when you are playing a game, the game is running on your computer, but it is constantly sending information to a server that processes the game. So, can all games be hacked? Yes or no? Or not? Well, the truth is that I would say that in principle, everything can be hacked, but it is true that some are more difficult than others. Keep in mind that the issue of cheaters or hackers is something that is in the crosshairs of all video games. Keep in mind that a game that is full of cheats and hackers is very difficult for people to want to play, since nobody wants to waste their time in a game where you can only win by cheating. But of course, how does an anti-cheat system work? How do they know if a person is cheating or not? Well, basically in two ways. Either by making checks on the game server itself, or lately, it is becoming very fashionable in the top games. Artificial intelligence. The issue of anti-cheat with checks is something quite basic. If you can't fly in a game, then the game would have to constantly check to see if your position on the map is above the plane. If it is something quite rare. Another type of checks is if a character has not dropped in life in X amount of time, if he has entered battle mode, for example. It is very rare for a person not to take even 1 point of damage. Another common check is the issue of speed. By controlling the tracking of a character, you can know if he has arrived from point A to point B in X time. If the game estimates that you can't get there in less than 3 minutes, for example, then it will know that you are using cheats. It will know that you are using cheats. The issue of artificial intelligence is a bit more complex. and is usually associated with shooter games. In a shooter-type game, shooting, accuracy is basic. You have to be very good at shooting to win in this game. And it is true that there are very good players who are able to kill you with a single shot in the head practically without looking. But not everyone can do this. No matter how good a player may be, it is quite rare that 10 out of 10 shots go to the head and just 10 pixels above the neck. For this sort of thing, they teach artificial intelligences to recognize what kind of shot is something natural, or it is something made by a machine. In this way, the artificial intelligences can analyze a game and quickly realize who is using cheat and who is not. And as a way to close the video, we are going to give my opinion. The truth is that I think that the subject of cheats is something that if you are 12 or 10 years old, that if you are 12 years old or 10 years old, can be a lot of fun to think you are the best in the world. But nowadays in the world in which we are, video games are slowly becoming like another sport. So try not to cheat, because there are people who are devoting body and soul to this, and it is a bitch for them that you are there doing cheats, and you are believing you are the best when really, all you are doing is cheating. So please, if you can avoid it, do not use cheats, and if you know someone who is using you, please report to the server admin or game admin or whatever, so that as few people as possible are cheating, who are cheating. And this is the end of today's video. If you like the video, please leave me a like below so I can see it. Comment me if you want me to talk about a specific topic, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you want to keep learning here, I leave you a video of mine so you can keep learning something new. Did you like the video? You can subscribe by clicking here. See you in the next video. Ciao!